Welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing, the most trusted podcast dedicated to the new business of location. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing. This is episode number 124. We're recording this live between Asif and I, bright and early, April 6th. That's Saturday morning, 2013. My name, Rob Woodbridge from Untethered TV, located in frigid, back to the cold weather, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. With me, as always, Asif. It's like we've been together so long now, I miss you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association, and yeah, we got to spend some actual time in the same city, in the same building for a little while this week in sunny San Francisco.
How great was that? Look, 3 weeks ago we were in Toronto together. This week we were in San Francisco together. It's getting too routine. I mean, when we're in the same city, it's like we do exist. We're not the same people, because I can tell people can think that we're the same people, right? You don't see us in the same city ever together. Now, Toronto, San Francisco, Berlin next, maybe. Who knows?
You never know. Yeah,
I had a great time in San Francisco. I think it was we spent. Certainly, I was there for the VentureBeat Mobile Summit, which was good. It was a good event. Some great insight, a very intimate event, talking about some of the key things that are challenging mobile right now. There's 6 key areas that they're talking about, and just go to VentureBeat and you'll find a summary of all of that. I thought it was a very, very, very well put event. High quality speakers, high quality attendees, CEOs, CTOs, and executives from very, very, very large mobile companies. So I thought that was great. But I mean, the highlight for me was that, the Wednesday evening in Edelman's offices with this panel that you put together. I thought it was wicked.
Yeah, it was really good. It was like top notch. Obviously, the speakers know their stuff. I mean, we 3 CEOs up there of leading companies and a head of marketing that's not too shabby either from Placecast.
Yeah, we had Scott and Scott Kavitan from Urban Airship and Rip Gerber from Locate and Blair Sweden from Placecast, and I thought Greg McAllister, who we had featured here as well. These guys have all been on one of our shows one way or another, but from Pushpoint. And I mean the content was great. These guys are the right guys to be talking about what we were talking about, which was this contextualized, location-based world that we're embracing, and the reaction was very good, wasn't it?
It was, and there was there were some interesting people in the crowd as well. There was a guy from U.S. Bank there, kind of looking at how as a bank, they have to start looking at some of these services and what they should be rolling out and building, and kind of taking notes. And there was the guy from Aloha Mobile in the crowd. Had an actual follow-up conversation with him yesterday, and their whole thing. His partner is the guy who built the blue dot for Google. So there's some interesting people around with a lot of knowledge in the space, and it's great when you can kind of pull that kind of crowd together and have that kind of interaction. So.
Well, I was fascinated. I really appreciate you inviting me to be a part of it. I had a blast, and then we found what was that little bar around the corner, the 83 Proof. I don't think it was an Irish bar. I think it was just like here in Ottawa, we've got these long-standing mainstays. They're called taverns, right? Which is, where the old loggers back when Ottawa was formed would go in and just basically drink. And it was always a cheap pint night and courts and that kind of stuff. Here it's called the Laugh or the Carlton Tavern. In right around the corner from Edelman's office is a place called 83 Proof. And it is by far not the least Irish place I've ever been, but it was referred to us as an Irish bar, but it was not, was it?
It was not, but it was good. It was busy, and it was a nice crowd.
It was loud. Yes. Well, we had a great time. We appreciate Edelman for opening up their office space to do this, and we appreciate all Scott, Rip, Blair, and Greg coming in and doing that for us. Everybody had to flee almost right after because they all had board meetings and planes to catch. But it was a great event. So another stellar event put on by the Location-Based Marketing Association. What else are you up to? You got some big things coming up in Toronto this week and in Seattle.
Yes. We've got 3 events in the next 2 weeks happening. So first here in Toronto, this coming Tuesday, April the 9th, at Google's brand spanking new head office here in Toronto. So they're hosting it this time. And yeah, it's all about retail. So it's we've got Google talking about retail. We've got Coca-Cola on the panel. We've got Cineplex, largest movie theater chain, up here. I'm going to be presenting some new research on retail from stuff we've done with us and Venue Labs. So yeah, it'll be a good event. We've got a great crowd coming out for that one. Lots of people signed up, and should be a lot of fun. And then the week after, on the 23rd, we're launching a new chapter of the LBMA in Seattle. Really looking forward to that. Obviously, with Venue Labs, with Point Inside. The Glympse guys will be out for that. There'll be a really interesting crowd, and Razorfish is hosting that at their fabulous offices there. They've got new offices as well in Seattle. So we love it when these agencies step up, and they're a big part of the LBMA. So we love when they step up and offer us their space, and because agencies just have cool space.
Yeah, I love these agency offices. You can see, if you're watching this right now, you can see the view from this. We were doing it, I think it was called the Vertigo boardroom inside of Edelman, and you were kind of looking over Mission Street right there in San Francisco, and it was crazy. And I don't like heights, man. So this is one of those things that, wow, like that's.
Well, it's a good thing I brought you up to the top of the mark for breakfast.
Absolutely, that was Asif and I actually have laid witness to the fact that we were together in one spot. I'm going to pull it up here as well. Is that if you don't there we are, and what was this place called, Asif?
It's the top of the mark. It's the roof of the Mark Hopkins Intercontinental Mark Hopkins Hotel.
Well, it was very high. There's another one where you can kind of see. I'm a little bit clouded there, but you can absolutely see how high we are, and it was a great brunch. It was good to get together. It was a lot of fun. San Francisco was a great city. There's a lot of froth in the city, but for all that froth, the energy, the enthusiasm, the ecosystem. I'm a mobile guy. The ecosystem in the mobile space is incredible there. Location space is incredible, and not only that, it kind of. I don't know if I could live there, but it attracts people in, right? So it's one of those things that people have to be in San Francisco for a portion of their time. And that's one of the great things, is that it's this cross-pollination. And, it is one of the only places, we hear about this across Canada, across the United States, but it is one of the only places where word of mouth really means word of mouth. So when you hear about word of mouth marketing, is that there are apps, there are ecosystems, there are companies inside of San Francisco that you have never heard of outside of San Francisco, but that are being used by 500,000 people inside of San Francisco. You know what I mean? And those spread just by word of mouth. And there's a ton of them. One of those apps is going to be what we're going to feature here today. Maybe you've played with it a little bit, but I'll go through it, in about a minute or so. And I think that this is the power of San Francisco, and this is why things emanate from San Francisco or Boston or New York or Austin. It's just that kind of power of word of mouth. Pretty cool. So that was the trip. But the other things, go to thelbma.com/events to register for the Toronto and the Seattle events, and I hope to be able to be invited out to do another one. Maybe not such a high boardroom next time. Okay, see.
All right, we'll see what we can do.
All right, so we got a packed show, and it's not only just a packed show. It's we're going to try a few things. I'm going to do a demonstration of this app that I talked about, which is called Now, which is at getnowapp.com. Got our 6 key stories that involve companies from around the world. Big deals for companies like Glympse with BMW. We're going to be talking about Tata Docomo. We're going to be talking about Fiona. We're going to call this one called the Whisper episode, because we've got 2 stories around something called Whispering Windows and Whisper, the secret network, literally the secret network. And we've also got our resource of the week, which is the mobile moment. It's a Chadwick Martin Bailey report about the mobile moment, which is something worthwhile. And you can download that. We'll provide a link. And we're going to go back in the archives a little bit for our special guest, which is Dave Lieb. He is the co-founder of Bump and Flock, 2 apps that I'm sure you played with. We've featured both on this podcast before. And Dave and I had a very interesting 7-minute conversation towards the tail end of a long-form episode that I did with him, which is focusing on a few things: the coming age of inference, the impact of voice, applications like Siri on the age of inference and find and social awareness, and here's an interesting one, the 10% that science fiction movies missed in predicting our future. So we're going to be talking about all that kind of stuff coming up. But before we get into that, I'm going to get into, if I can, the app of, the app selection, the things that are fascinating me with me. And I got to thank Lenny Rachitsky, who was the co-founder of LocalMind, and is now working on product at Airbnb. His company was acquired by Airbnb last year. And I had an opportunity to go in and sit down and chat with Lenny at the Airbnb office, and it was very cool. And he put me onto these guys. It's a company called Now, and it's created by a guy by the name of Ben Broca, and you can go to getnowapp.com if you're interested in this. And we talked about this company called Visible last week, which was the equivalent to what I'm about to show you, but for Twitter photos. And this is tying into your socialgram, basically your social graph with Instagram and with Facebook. So I'm going to pull it up here. It is called Now, and I'm launching it as we go here. So what this is a location-aware, you think about this as discovering through photos your city's greatest experience or best experience. And I like this because it's focused on existing photos that are posted with a geotag or a location association or location associated with it. So I'm actually pulling this up. This is about Ottawa here. You'll see it. There are actually people using Instagram and photo sharing services in Ottawa, which is amazing. And so think about this as a living city guide. And I'll show you just a few things that happened over the night last night. Last night in Ottawa, which was the Friday night, the IIHF World Women's Hockey Tournament happened here. And these are some of the photos that happened between Team Canada and Finland. This is at Scotiabank Place, home of your Ottawa Senators. So it is anybody who was tagged or any photo that was tagged at that location will come up, just like we saw last week with Visible. But this is a little bit deeper integration with Instagram. So one of the things that I really like about this, Asif, is that I can actually pull up my current location, or I can follow some other locations. Like here on the screen, you've got St. Patrick's Day, you've got South by Southwest, Paris Fashion Week, very cool. The Pope's last audience, and the Academy Awards. I'm going to pull up South by Southwest, and you'll see an example of how this just flows very effectively. So all the hotspots at South by Southwest, anybody taking a photo with Instagram with a location tag would have come up on this. And it's just to give you the context, if you're watching this right now, you'll see how many bubbles there are, how many location pops there are. But it is a pretty amazing place. And as I scroll, it shows that location on the map. Now with South by Southwest, it was everywhere. Everybody was taking every Instagram photo. I'm sure that the density was so high. But there's the Eric Clapton concert. For you who are watching, and you can just kind of relive those experiences. So really interesting app. I know that, Asif, you kind of likened it to a photo version of Banjo, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Banjo is all about listening in, so to speak, on the conversations happening around events anywhere in the world, and gathering sort of all that data and information in one place. So it's absolutely, for me, like that. Obviously, this is specific to Instagram and photos. I think obviously if you're an Instagram user, this is a good add-on, so to speak, to kind of layer on top of that. But I wonder whether there's a significant user base of Instagram users out there, so I think you're kind of tapping into a good user group with something like this. But the beauty of something like Banjo, in contrast, is that it's potentially all platforms, and any event or any location. So there's probably more overall utility in something like Banjo than in something like this. And the interesting thing is especially when you're in places where there's a high density, so not just events but people around you. When we were in San Francisco this week, I was using Banjo, and it was sending me push notifications of people who are in my network, like people I'm connected to, that happen to be nearby. And I got this notification. I told you while we were out there, I got this notification that a gal by the name of Kristen Fairman happened to be near me, like literally like a block away. And this is somebody, she's the head of marketing at Osmont, a company from Michigan that is in the kind of loyalty space. And we've talked about those guys in the past. In fact, we've had Joe, their CEO, on as a guest before. But because they're part of the LBMA, we've done a lot of work, Kristen and I, back and forth on calls and emails and whatever, but we've never actually met in person. And so I saw this notification. I sent a quick note saying, "Hey, I see you're just around the corner. Do you want to meet up for coffee?" And it happened. Like we pulled it together. Like because Banjo was able to kind of surface that information. So, I love these kinds of things. So it's about events. It's about curating content and putting it all in one place around an event, whether it be a photo or conversation or what have you, or tweets or whatever. But it's also about being able to that real time connectivity piece is really interesting too.
I 100% agree, and I'm intrigued to figure out how people are going to make money using or building these applications and leveraging this social layer. Like, what would you have paid? Would you have paid $1 or $2 to make that connection so that you can actually connect with somebody in real life? I don't know. And but when it comes to the Now app, it is a it's what Local Mind, I think, and Lenny's company were trying to do. It's what Banjo is trying to do, but they're all coming at it in different angles and different approaches, and nobody knows where this is going to go. But I'm fascinated because, with when we looked at Visible last week, it was the same kind of thing. It's like there's a lot going on in your city that you don't know, and the density of photos that happen as at an event will indicate whether or not people are having fun or not. I always think that if everybody's taking photos, is anybody actually really having any fun there? Because they're all taking photos of other people having fun. Anyway, if you're interested in it, getnowapp.com. It's only available, from what I can tell right now, on iOS, so you can get it at the App Store. I'm going to try to get Ben to come onto the show, a long-form episode on Untethered TV to go through the process, and I'll talk to him about his revenue model. But I kind of like this. I like sitting back and having that lean-back experience, browsing my own city or an event, a specific event, and that's why I kind of like I kind of like Now. So go to getnowapp.com. All right, let's dive into the stories. We got lots to talk about. We got 7 stories. We got 6 stories and our guest and our resource of the week. So let's kick this thing off for real.
Yeah. All right. Well, the first story is, for me, a really interesting one because we love data. We love metrics, both of us. And this week we saw an announcement of a partnership between Starcom, MediaVest, one of the largest media buying groups in the world, partnering up with PlaceIQ, Duncan McCall's company out of New York. And the partnership here is about creating a new metric for advertisers, for media buyers, to basically be able to track the effectiveness of some of these mobile ads that are being served in a location-specific framework. So we've talked before on this show about, is a CPM, or CPC, really the right metric for when we're talking about location-based ads? And I think you and I collectively said, no, we need new metrics. There's got to be, other ways to measure the effectiveness of some of these things. And here we go, and we see, Starcom partnering with PlaceIQ to do just that. So what they've launched is something called a place visit rate, a PVR. I like the name, place visit rate. It's basically, its intention is to measure the percentage of customers that are served a mobile banner ad for a retail, and then how many retail visits that generates to a store. So the way they've done this is PlaceIQ has some interesting kind of geofencing technology and sort of data mapping, and what they've come up with here is a way to when an in-app ad request is served through a network, that network, the ad network itself, assigns that device a unique hash ID string. So it's like a string of numbers and letters, and they anonymize that to the device. Okay, and so what PlaceIQ is doing is they're tracking these individual hash IDs and layering them on top of a map or a geofenced area, if you will, that they've created around specific environments and stores. And so they're tracking, the ad gets displayed, the relationship between that ad and this unique hash ID, and then what happens, where does that device go within this geofence boundary. And together that thing creates a PVR, or place visit rate.
And if this actually works, there's one great quote in this article that was on Ad Age that said that this may not be appropriate for all of the agency's clients, so like every client that's out there. Because it struck me as odd because wouldn't you want to see the conversion rates? But there are certain businesses where it is about awareness making. It isn't about closing the deal or bringing them in. Those businesses I don't understand. But the idea that you can take a banner ad and prove its worth, right? This is going to, if this is effective for PlaceIQ, and it has been, based on one test that they did with a retailer, that conversion rate, if this actually does work, could it not change the face of mobile advertising for the good? Like instead of
completely. I mean, it's for me. This is the absolute, a step in the right direction here. And obviously, there's much more work to be done to fine-tune these kinds of things. There's challenges with this kind of stuff, off the bat, in the sense that, every mobile ad network has its own hash ID structure. So, from PlaceIQ's perspective, they've got to kind of, work with all of the ad networks. They've got to, ultimately, for this thing to be ubiquitous, it's got to be, one common device ID hash system.
Got to be set free, man. Got to be free.
Yeah, but that that's the kind of thing that takes a long time. But you got to start somewhere, and I really applaud this effort. And the fact that Starcom is backing this. I mean, they're between them and MediaCom, the two biggest media buying agencies in the world. They probably buy like 80% of the media between the two of them for every major brand and agency out there. So. They're stepping up. They're putting their clients in front of this and saying, let's test this. Let's pilot this kind of stuff. We're obviously, I love this. I'm going to reach out to these guys. We do a lot of work with Starcom and PlaceIQ, and reach out to these guys and see if, A, let's get them on the show and talk about it. And B, let's, we'll open up our network, of retailers and brands to this too, and see if we can facilitate some more pilots. I think it'd be interesting.
Anytime you can measure this kind of thing, the impact, I'm all for this, and we all have talked often. In fact, on the panel this week, we talked about the death of the banner ad, and I think that if this can work, this transform it's got to accelerate because there's got to be tremendous value. And I think that there's a small percentage, and by small I mean huge percentage, of advertising firms and agencies that don't want this to work, because then it actually puts the onus on effective use of these things as opposed to just blanketing. So I think that it's like the oil companies don't really want cars to be created that don't use their energy source. It's the same thing with this. I think that there are powers that control this, and it's an uphill battle, but definitely applaud PlaceIQ for doing this. So PlaceINSMG. So PlaceIQ.com. That's our first story. Very, very cool. Let's go. I love these little innovation companies.
There you go. All right. Our next story. We move over to India now, and powerhouse over there, Tata Docomo, and these guys, have obviously been at the forefront of mobile and location and cellular services for a long time. And what they announced this week is really interesting. So they announced something called Facebook Check-in using USSD. So the idea here is that they're powering check-ins to happen without any internet or GPS connectivity whatsoever. And this is interesting. I mean, I've not heard anybody doing this yet. So for me, this is a first. The way it works is if you're a Facebook user, you basically dial a number, 325, or it's star 325 star 50 pound. And it automatically shares your location. Pretty
easy to remember there, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's a reason for that number. I don't know what it is, and there's a revenue model. Like when you do this, they charge you. I think it's like $1 or something like that per location check-in. So it's really interesting what they're doing here. And doing this over USSD. If you're not familiar with that, what is that? Unstructured supplementary service data or something. I think is what that stands for. So that's just a standard protocol. It's used by every GSM carrier out there.
So this is like It's somewhat ridiculous. I mean, I've never heard of this, and I think there's a reason for that. Is that if you don't have GPS in your phone and you don't have internet in your phone, but you really need to check into a location on Facebook. It's a hard thing for me. I don't understand what I spent.
First of all, I don't understand that. I think it's a limited use case.
Yeah, but they rolled out Facebook messaging, so you can actually do that as well without any internet connection. You can just, and they charge for the service. But I don't know that, and this is something that I don't know. But I don't know that the importance of checking in is that important. You know what I mean? Or the fact that to be able to get into Facebook messaging and post a message to a charge, right? So I'm talking about a developing nation, an emerging economy, where my phone is not a smartphone, it's not internet enabled, it doesn't have GPS. So what that kind of signifies to me is that there's a price barrier that doesn't really reflect the user, right? So if I can't afford a phone with a GPS or internet connection or the service layer on top of that, or I can't afford to use that service layer or buy a phone, why would I think that this is important, right? So there's a huge disconnect for me between the service and the intended user, right? And so it doesn't make any sense at all.
That. I mean, I don't really see a huge huge use case for this. I mean, obviously they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be launching this kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm with you. It's and charging people to do this. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, I'd rather see some sort of passive location sharing thing happening instead of this kind of very regimented per use per share type of system.
It doesn't spread, right? And that's. And the odd thing is that we can't even ask. I can ask anybody out there who's listening to this to say, well, have you ever used this service? And I said, well, probably not, because we're broadcasting this on the internet. So if you don't have internet access and where you are, you're not getting this podcast. And ultimately, I don't even know if that service works. But Docomo, NTT Docomo or Tata Docomo, I mean, they're rolling this out for a reason. But I just beyond me why anybody would use that if you don't have internet or GPS on the phone to begin with and charge for it. So I'm kind of on that story.
All right. But the next story you're all about.
I am. We talk about telematics. We talk about the things that bring mobile and smartphones into the car and leverage the car as the operating system or as the vehicle for quite literally for app distribution. And I think that we're going to have dashboards in our lives, our dashboard in our house, our dashboard in our office, our dashboard in our kitchen, our dashboard in our car, right? So we got entertainment, life, work, and transportation. And this is why I like this. There's a service called Glympse. For those of you who don't know Glympse, you can go to Glympse, Glympse. And this is a service that takes your existing location and does some pretty cool things with it. Like you can send people a notification when you're going to be there. You can tell a group of friends, set up a meeting place for a group of friends to be able to be at the same location and then watch them all descend on that location. And they've now signed an agreement with BMW to be a part of the car, to be in the car. So a one-touch option inside of BMW cars that is emanating from the phone into the device that allow you to do those certain things, like to tell people when you're going to be home or when you're going to be at the office or when you're going to be at dinner or anything along those lines. And I kind of like this service, the integration with the phone, the car, and ease of use, and you don't have to pull your phone out to do this. It's one touch. What do you think of this thing?
No, I love it, and this is the second such deal. They did another deal just like this with Ford. I think it was a month or two ago. I mean, I think I've always been a fan of Glympse. So I love it. It's its ability for the user to define the parameters around who they're sharing their location with. Just tell my family, just tell my 66 friends, defining it by time frames, so only share my location for the next, 3 hours automatically. So it's passive in that sense with a defined group and a defined time period. So for me, there's always been a lot of power in that kind of control around location sharing. And I love that. And the fact that this is now tied into my Ford car, my BMW car, and it's one touch, and you can send updates. When I'm driving home from the office, that I'm coming. Yeah, I'll be there. I'm stuck in traffic, but I'll be there. And it's all, and it's voice enabled as well, which is cool. All you have to do is just say send a
Yeah.
glimpse through the voice systems in these cars, and away it goes. So for me, that's really cool. It's got Facebook, Twitter integration, all that. So
You know what?
really, really good.
I like this as well, and I think that this is just the beginning of these services that emanate from the phone, that start in the phone, that use the car as a broadcast, piece. And we've started to highlight some of these companies that do this, and it's only a matter of time before that integration. We see this with Bluetooth integration with voice, and we're seeing this with music integration, and it started basically with an aux in for auxiliary in for your music. But now we're starting to see that real integration, the innovation that happens. And BMW and Ford, two companies that were at the forefront of this, right? Certainly with BMW investing in a whole bunch of mobile startups that complement the ride, and Ford with their Ford Sync product that really kind of made OnStar seem old school, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, without question. And the nice thing too is the recipients of the glimpse. Like when you send out that location alert, whether you can send it to email, you can send it to a cell phone, you can send it anywhere. They don't have to have the glimpse app on their end. So it's ubiquitous in that sense. Like anybody can receive the update that you want them to get.
And there's a couple of companies that play in this, like Twist. We've talked about Twist, and we're going to get Eddie Marks, who's a longtime Untethered guy who came on maybe 3 years ago with his company Inedible Software. They made the pump shotgun.
Yep.
But Twist does that, and I use Tempo, which is the calendaring app, and they you're starting to see little integrations of those services, and there's no reason why that those guys like Twist and Tempo can't integrate right into a car as well. I mean, they have to create the relationships.
No, I mean, you're going to see more and more of this kind of stuff, and it just makes sense. And anyhow, so Glympse, looking forward to learning more about that. In fact, as I mentioned, we've got the Seattle event happening on the 23rd. Glympse is based there. Going to try and get out there and connect with these guys face to face, and hopefully we can get them on the show soon.
That'd be great. Well, if you want to check them out, go to Glympse, GLYMPSE.com. And if you have a BMW or started to use the service when it rolls out, please, love to hear from you. Reach out, rob@untethered.tv or Sif at the LBMA.
I'm not trading in my car for that, though.
No. It would take a while. I'm waiting for, I'm a Mazda driver. I was an old Jeep driver, but I'm a Mazda driver, and I have twins, so I have a CX-9, right? And those guys are doing nothing in this space, and I'm pissed, right?
Yeah.
Like, technology is going to be one of the decision-making factors when you buy a car going forward, and,
Well, I mean, Ford's been at this for a long time with Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
And we're starting to see more and more of those kinds of partnerships. I mean, I drive a Mercedes, and it's yes, I've got voice and I've got a bunch of interesting stuff in there, but it doesn't have anything like this, right? It's got great nav, but it's when you get to this next level of you can actually do really cool actionable things connected to the apps and the things that are on your phone. That becomes really interesting. So.
Well, that's it. So go to glimpse.com, and we're going to be watching this. Obviously, we're fascinated by the telematics in the car industry as they integrate these mobile devices in, the car as the operating system. Very cool. We're going to take a break from our stories for a moment here because I got a very special guest. It's, as I said, this is an older interview. About a month ago, I sat down with Dave Lieb from Bump and Flock fame to talk about his new app, Flock. And there was we had a little clip in a previous episode. But here, there was this 7-minute segment at the very end, which we talked about the future, the impact, the things that he's looking at, and centered around what he believes, this age of inference that is happening right now. And I think this is a very important piece that he talks about, is that, what is inference? How does Siri or how does voice play into this? Is it a conduit? Does it replace search? And then also, we talk about this kind of 10%, Gene Roddenberry in Star Trek, very influential, I think that everything that we use now in technology emanates from the first Star Trek, and maybe even the Next Generation. But he said that it only takes us 90% there. The technology that was envisioned in those television shows and movies takes us 90% there. And it's that 10% that is missing that science fiction just never prepared us for. And you know, we wonder why. And you're going to have to sit and listen to Dave as we talk about this right now. So here's Dave Lieb, the co-founder of Bump and Flock.
Life 10 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago, when I first started driving, I used to carry around this book that was this thick that just covered my city. And if I wanted to go somewhere that I'd never been before, I had to look it up in the book and find which grid it was in, and then go to the page and find out how to get there. And now we don't even think about it. We remember that world. Now we get in our car before we even know where we're going, and we start driving, and our phone tells us where to go. And what's really exciting is thinking about what's next for that.
What is next, man?
So I think this idea of inference is going to be very big. I think it's going to be, you know, maybe one of the biggest shifts in computing that we've seen. Because if you look at computing so far, we started with punch cards, or maybe before that there were some things that I haven't heard about. But started with punch cards. We'd stick our punch cards into the computer. They'd do something that we wanted it to do. Then we evolved and got keyboards and a real-time display, so I could push a button and see something change on the screen. Then we got the mouse. That was a huge revolution at the time. But really, it just let me move my hand and something would move on the screen, and made it a little more accessible to me. Then Apple comes along and does the touch screen, so I can actually touch the content that I want. That was a big paradigm shift for human-computer interaction. But the computer was still doing the same sorts of things. It was reacting to my commands. And so, yeah, Moore's Law has taken off, and computing has expanded, and there's 100 times more people on the internet now than there were 20 years ago. But there hasn't been a fundamental shift in the way that we interact with computers, and that has just started with mobile phones. And I think that's going to be a really fundamental shift. I think that, you know, not very far from now, I'll be here doing an interview with you, and my phone will tell me, Dave, you've got to be down in Mountain View at 1 p.m., which is fine, but there's an accident on the 101, so you really can't take that route. And by the way, if you want to save some time in your day, you should pick up your dry cleaning on the way instead of on the way home, because it might close before you get done. And those sorts of things would add a lot of value to my life, but they're not happening yet. But they certainly can. Like, you could build all of those things right now. And we're just starting to see that with Google Now. We're just starting to see it with some of these other apps. I mean, Square, I think, is doing great stuff where I can walk into a place without taking my phone out of my pocket. I can pay. These sorts of things are getting to be interesting. I think that will be a major theme in the next 10 years.
You think like companies like Apple with Siri, do you think that plays into this kind of thing? Is voice going to be as important? Because I think that voice obfuscates everything, right? When I can talk to something, whether it's my car, through my phone, my television, I start to think that maybe search isn't as relevant, because that's an intent, right?
To me, voice is a way to lower friction in interacting with a computer. I don't think it's a paradigm shift in terms of the type of interaction you may have. I use Siri all the time. I love it. I send text messages with it. I set up my calendar with it. But it's not doing anything fundamentally different. What it allows is a more human communication with the computer in a way that maybe is easier or simpler for me to do. But I don't think it represents a fundamental shift in how we use computers. That shift is being powered more by the fact that this thing is with me 24 hours a day. It's for more than 3 feet from my body, and that's crazy. And what that allows you to do is know where I am at all times. It's connected to all these other data sources, so it knows a lot about my life, a lot about the things that I care about. And so that is the fundamental shift, I think. The fact that these computers are now getting to be very close to a part of us, as opposed to the way that we touch the screen or talk to those are enablers to me, not the core idea.
It'd be interesting to see a time when there's no input, right? That it's just there, right? No touch screen, no nothing, right? And that's what we're talking about, the age of inference.
You look at sci-fi, and usually sci-fi is a predictor of things that may come. So, you know, I grew up and I watched Star Trek: The Next Generation. That was my sci-fi thing.
I'm so old, I watched the original. How's that?
Well, and a lot of the things that we have today, they were there 25 years ago or 20 years ago with Star Trek. You know, we had tablet computers. They had those. They had mobile devices, the tricorder they carried around. They had voice recognition. They talked to the computer. But they didn't really have inference. The computer wasn't kind of interrupting them and saying, "Hey guys, you really should come back from that planet and come back to the spaceship because this thing's happening." That wasn't there, and it's interesting that the sci-fi brains didn't really think about that at the time. So it's interesting that sci-fi didn't really predict that in a large way, whereas they did predict a lot of the ways that we would interact with computers, the channels we would use to talk to computers, but not the fundamental purpose of computers.
And I think that's so interesting because we've emulated Star Trek, right? And all of the early sci-fi. I mean, people complained about the iPad when they got it. Like, it's too slow. The screen isn't like. I held it on the first time I held it in my hand. I'm like, I never in my lifetime thought I would see this because this is from Star Trek, right? But I wonder if we were so influenced by the devices. And we recreated the devices, but one thing that they couldn't create or understand is the impact that those devices and the computing power would have on us. And we had to have the devices before we came to the realization that we're about to enter this age of inference.
Yeah, I think the core idea is, can you make people's lives better by building something new? And certainly the iPad and tablet computers do that because it's a computing device that's more accessible. I can use it on my couch and it's easier, it's more fun, more pleasant. That was the reason we built Monk. It was, hey, certainly we want to interact with each other in the real world. Let's build something that would make people's lives better. And I think that's the important trend is everything that gets built, if it's just cool and just a gadget and just interesting, it'll have its heyday and then it'll go away. And the core ideas of, does this fundamentally make my life better? Even in a very small way, but does it fundamentally make my life better? Those are the sorts of products that can really endure and power these big trends.
Dave Lieb, told you it would be worth listening to. Absolutely. And if you're interested in that kind of conversation, there's a great episode on Untethered TV. It's called, it's episode 441, if you can believe it. It's called Cognitive Overhead, the Age of Inference, and a photo app named Flocked with Bump co-founder Dave Lieb. And, the thing to remember about this is that his view is Valley oriented or Silicon Valley oriented, but it emanates from a very strong point. These guys are invested in by Andreessen Horowitz, and have you ever heard Mark Andreessen talk about this very topic, this age of inference that we're moving into? He believes it wholeheartedly. The investments that he's made are right in this area. We believe in it very much because that inference with location and context is part of this triangle that is reshaping every single industry on the planet. So I really think Dave is one of these upper echelon of intelligence when it comes to thinking around this space. So I would implore you, go and find that episode, download it, because Dave's insights are valuable. And incidentally, my goal has always been to get Mark Andreessen, the founder of Netscape, and Andreessen Horowitz, onto the show. He's the only guy that's rejected me on Untethered TV. And now I've interviewed many of his companies, as many mobile companies in that circle as possible that he's invested in. And this is as close as I came because Dave Lieb was actually in the Andreessen Horowitz offices. And at the end of the episode, I was like, Dave, just go and find Mark. Would you get him on the show? Just say hi. Then I can quit. Right? Yeah. So that was Dave. If the episode is up there on Untethered TV, go and watch that if you are inclined to be a little bit smarter at the end of an hour. Right? All right.
Sounds good to me.
Back to the news. Sif.
Back to the news. All right. So here we go. We got two stories where we're talking about whispering. The first is really, really interesting, really cool technology from a company called Fiona. And they have a technology called Whispering Windows. And effectively what they do is they take any surface, primarily glass windows on storefronts. So this is about out-of-home marketing and stuff like that. So you walk up to a store. They've been doing a lot of work in the UK with Topshop and various other Selfridges and so on, a number of stores. And basically they can turn any surface, like a window, into a speaker. And basically, as the name says, whispering windows. The speaker is doing the talking. The speaker is the audio amplifier, projecting the sound, outwards, to the crowd outside. And so they showcase this technology in a couple of cases. One of the projects, as I said, was with with Vogue for fashion night out, and using a Topshop store on Oxford Street in the UK. And they had a very popular artist called Delilah inside the store doing a sort of an invite-only performance, with a crowd inside the store. But to her back, she it was the storefront window with a bunch of people on the street, basically trying to clamor around to see what was going on inside the store. And they could hear the performance live because the speakers were the windows themselves pushing the audio out. Now, like this is really cool. I mean, like this is like any surface, and it doesn't even have to be glass. It could be like plexiglass. It could be wood floors. It could be a whole bunch of things that they've got this technology that they built that can basically turn any surface like that into a loudspeaker. Pretty cool. Inside or outside.
Very cool. And they're even talking about doing this to your desk, right? So that you plug it into your iPhone or whatever and just make your desk the speaker. And that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, right?
I like it. And what they were talking about is that they did these tests, right, for stores, like literally retail stores, to attract attention to a display, and then they did some tests around that to see what the conversion rate was and it was an incredible rate that people were stopping, looking at the display, and then going in and purchasing the products that were in the display. So these are tests, but when you start to think about the implications of this from a retail perspective, I think that this is amazing.
It's huge, right? I mean, if you think about it, I mean, take any sort of inanimate ad, like a billboard ad, just a print billboard ad, or something on the side of a transit shelter, or anything like that's just like a still ad, non-digital, or even digital for that matter. But the ability to add audio to it, and just have a speaker anywhere, so to speak, is really interesting, because we know we know sound attracts people to things, right? It's one thing to see that the ads just sitting there on the side of the building. It's another thing to see the ads generating sound from it, and I want to go. It's calling me. I want to go here. I want to go see what that's all about. The engagement, as you said, is it just goes way up when you start to layer that kind of stuff on top.
Yeah, and they've created this so that it doesn't get like broadcast out into the street, so that it distracts cars.
Yeah, it's directional.
Yeah, so it's when you walk right in front of it, basically, and so very effective, very, very effective. If you're interested, you just go to whisperingwindow.com and you'll see exactly what we're talking about. Some great demonstrations. I was playing a video as you were speaking about that with Delilah performing. So just go to whisperingwindow.com. So from one whisper to another.
To the next, the secret network whisper. So this story hit my radar this week because they raised a little bit of funding, and that's I track a lot of that kind of stuff. So they raised $3 million. This company called Whisper from Lightspeed Venture Partners, Trinity Venture, and the founder and CEO of Flixster, Joe Greenstein, as well as the founder of Shoe Dazzle, Brian Lee. And this is a really interesting offering in the marketplace. So if you've ever used a secret confession site like dailyconfession.com, Post Secret, Fresh Confession, any of those kinds of things, now just think about the mobile version of that and location-specific version of that in particular. That is what this Whisper app is all about. So the idea being anonymous posts that are queryable by location, or you can find posts that are made by people who are nearby you. And this is just people posting private messages, anonymous messages. You don't know who it is, and there's an actual business model around this as well. And the numbers in terms of the usage are huge. I mean, why don't you touch on that, Rob?
Yeah. The numbers we're talking about here, the last month there was 1 billion page views. They're doing 800,000 messages. That's in the in-app messaging, 800,000 messages a day. And what did they say? Yeah. They said that they wanted to keep they wanted to do a soft launch. They haven't really launched this out. They wanted to keep this under the wraps a little bit. They wanted to keep this secret. And
They've got about 1 million users.
Yeah, but that's incredible. 800,000 messages a day, 1 billion page views a month, and they actually have a revenue model, right? So this is, I mean, it's pretty amazing to think that these guys have scaled that quickly in such a short period of time, and they didn't really want to do this, which I think is astounding, Asif, astounding. I mean, is this, we've seen these kind of apps before, right? Where you've got a meteoric rise like this, and kind of it caught on like wildfire, like Snapchat. We heard for so long about Snapchat, but it seems to have. I don't think the use has dissipated, although you can't maintain that kind of meteoric rise. But we don't hear about Snapchat anymore. Is that because it's part of common use, or is it because it disappears? And what do you think that something like this will do? Like, do you think it'll maintain the momentum that it's maintaining?
Well, I think it's a bit of common use. I mean, it's like WhatsApp or stuff like that too. Right? I mean, there's millions and millions and millions of people who are using that every day. And often, many times a day. I mean, same with this. I mean, the app engagement around this stuff is
30 minutes a day.
I mean, 30 minutes a day, and average is 6 times a day. The users are using this stuff. But it becomes that it's just part of my daily routine of my life. So it doesn't get talked about after a while, unless you start to roll out new feature sets and other kinds of things, right? So, but sometimes you don't need that, right? I mean, the beauty of a thing like WhatsApp is it's just text messaging without paying for text messaging, right? Like, so you get a lot of use around that kind of stuff, and the same thing can apply to something like this, except there is a revenue model here. So yeah, I like it.
And I'm going to give you a little glimpse here when I pull up this. This is just the first one. It's one of the latest ones. It says, my best friend and I were talking, and on the count of 3, we both told our deepest secret. At the same time, we both said, I love you. And there are 2,000 likes, 43 reposts, 43 replies. It's the engagement rate is pretty incredible with something like this. So if you're interested, just go to whisper.sh. Or you can download the iPhone app for free. I was showing you a couple of screen grabs of that as well at the same time. So whisper.sh, 1 billion page views, $3 million in new funding, 800,000 messages a day, 1 million members, average use 30 minutes per day, 6 times per day is the how many times people use it. That is just freaking incredible. And this is a soft launch. This is not trying to draw attention to themselves. Come on. That's amazing. All right. Our last story here, I think we all remember Kevin Rose, his company Milk Inc., their first app, Oink. I would classify what we're about to talk about, which is a company called, an app called Circle Tie, the Middle East and Egyptian version of Oink, the Oink app, which is basically an application. Circle Tie allows you to rate and remember and review pretty much everything on the planet, and it's focused on the Middle East and Egypt. Is that an apt way to describe what this is, Circle Tie, Asif?
Yeah, I would say so, and I think where. Two things. One is, I brought this story for this week because we don't hear a lot about these types of services coming out of the Middle East or Egypt or places like that. So, it's a new thing. They got just in Cairo alone, they got 60,000 users apparently. They've got some interesting brands that they're working with, McDonald's and others around this kind of stuff. But yeah, it is a bit like Oink in that context. And where Oink sort of kind of big flash and equally big flash of failure. I think here in North America, I would say that obviously I'm not over there, but in the Middle East, but I would say this probably has a better shot in a market like that than something like Oink in North America, where it's so saturated with these types of review services and Yelp and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I just have to think that something that's niche like this in markets like those, have a better shot of success. And obviously they've got some numbers to back it up to say that it's working. So.
Yeah, and a quick understanding of what it is, how it works, and this is a direct article that I got from the Daily News Egypt. It says. There are four main categories: places, retail stores, events, and movies. And once you find a place you want, there are a bunch of options you can use. You can call it, read or write reviews, check in, view a map with directions, look at pictures of the place, or add your own pictures and much more. For movies, you can actually watch the trailer and view which theaters are showing your movie. So this is common. I don't think this is anything unique, but again, it shows you this kind of niche micro markets that you can build these things in. And the key to anything like this, Asif, as we all know, is density, right? You have to, it's the number of people using it and the number of businesses that are on it, the amount of information that can be found on it that is useful. And so rolling out a global thing like Oink did, rate everything, review everything, the chair you're sitting on, the desk you're using, or the restaurant you're eating, and not even the restaurant, the creme brulee that you're eating, doesn't make any sense. This in a highly localized area, neighborhood, I think could succeed. But and maybe this will work in the Middle East and Egypt. But very cool that it just shows this is a global industry as we talk about it. So Circle Tie launched in the Middle East and Egypt. If you've used it, you happen to be out there and you're using this, or we would appreciate it if you go in and downloaded it and played around with it and let us know what you think. And you know how to reach us, Rob at Untethered.tv or Asif at thelbma.com. All right, so we got the Now app, we've got Starcom and PlaceIQ, Tata Docomo launching their Facebook check-ins without any GPS or internet use, Glympse in your BMW, we've had Fiona whispering windows, we've had Whisper.se, we've the launch of Circle Tie, and of course we had our great guest Dave Lieb from Flock and Bump. One last piece here, our resource of the week, the mobile moment, which for me is every moment of every day, but for purchasers, for consumers, maybe not so much. This is a report that was done by Chadwick Martin Bailey. Pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a good report in the sense that if you're trying to understand, mobile wallets, the risks around them, the consumer, reluctance to jump on board, really quickly. They've got a lot of great data in here to kind of put that all in one place and help, like they've surveyed the public, they understand, what are the issues, what are the value propositions around the wallet. So if this is something as a retailer, as a brand, you're thinking about mobile wallets, but you want to understand the consumer sentiment around that, there's some good data in here. If you're planning on launching a mobile wallet, because we don't have enough apparently, then you can get a good snapshot of the industry from this in terms of understanding what a mobile wallet has to offer and contain in order to attract consumers. So they've done a good job of putting all that data in one place. So take a look at it. It's available on www.thelbma.com/research.
Yeah, the only thing that struck me about this is that, we all know the reasons: security, identity theft, all those kind of things. What wasn't up there was battery consumption. Like there was a concern of battery consumption, like it's going to use up my battery. It's not like what happens when my battery is completely out and I can't access my wallet, right? Which is a big challenge. But there's a slide in there where they talked about, the slide number 8, where they talked about, how other some of the concerns or some of the things that people would want in a mobile wallet, and it's called this: information gathering features like showrooming are the most attractive location-based services for mobile wallet users who don't currently plan to adopt. And I don't get this at all. I'm pulling the screen up here. So, a mobile wallet has to be clearly defined, and I think until we do that, we're going to be running around in circles, because this is not what a mobile wallet is. It's they say that these are the features that would entice people to use mobile wallets, and it's to check if products you seek are available in specific stores nearby. That has nothing to do with the concept of a mobile wallet. Compare prices with online and nearby merchants, and receive offers and get recommendations and get discounts. Those are the things that apparently will drive people to mobile wallets, and that's not a mobile wallet. So I think that we need a clear definition of what a mobile wallet is going to be. It's so ubiquitous and broad, overused term right now. But certainly
it's certainly a wide definition of a mobile wallet that they're going with here, right? This is almost like my whole conversation around eBay and PayPal, right? It's you could argue PayPal's got a mobile wallet offering now, in the definition that you and I understand mobile wallet. But if you start to combine the rest of PayPal's offerings, real-time inventory data, and all that other stuff, then and you wrap that inside of their mobile wallet offering, then this is what they're talking about here in this Consumer Pulse report.
It is, yes. And what's fascinating about this, Asif, is this one slide that actually says that, I'll pull this up right now, is that many have an initial preference for credit card companies and banks. I mean, this is, where we want the mobile wallet to emanate. But look at this. There's carriers, which we've talked about quite often around Rogers becoming a bank here in Canada. And the only one that's named, aside from like the carriers listed in a list, as you can see there, is PayPal. Right? So it's credit card companies, banks, mobile service providers, PayPal, then it's into technology giants, third-party discount companies like Level Up or Groupon and other. The only named company in there, PayPal. That's the clout that those guys have. So you're absolutely right. PayPal was what, your 2011 company to watch, 2012 company to watch?
Yeah.
Oh, it's very cool. So if you want this whole report, it's worthwhile to go and take a quick glimpse through it. It's at thelbma.com/research.
There you go.
On my desk, I have nothing left to talk about. It's unbelievable. I am speechless right now. That's episode number 124 of This Week in Location-Based Marketing. Asif, you will be in Toronto this coming Tuesday, so if you are in Toronto, please go to thelbma.com/events to register for that, or if you are going to be in Seattle for the launch of the chapter in the Seattle chapter of the Location-Based Marketing Association, register at the same location, lbma.com/ or thelbma.com/events. Anything else to add there, man?
No, I think that's it. We're if you've got any other stories out there and you're listening and you want to share, you want us to talk about it, let us know. Got a great one in for coming up shortly from a guy that's been in touch with over the years. Just give him a quick shout out. I know he's a big fan. Ozan Kankosali. He's in Turkey, and he's got an interesting new project that'll be launching in about a month or so in the Turkish market. So we'll be talking about that shortly as well. It's kind of like a shop kick for Turkey.
Very cool.
So yeah, get ready for that one. Hey, we're open to anything cool and interesting that's coming out there. Rob and I want to know. Send us an email. Send us a Twitter message. Send us something.
We will follow up with you. And of course, currency for us is a great review in iTunes or wherever you are finding this fine podcast. So please go in there, do us a big, big, big favor. If you like what you've listened to, the other 124 episodes, including this one, even if you've liked half of them, man, that still warrants a review. If you're listening to this consistently, please just go in there and give us a 5-star review. If you're not going to do that, or a 4-star review, if you're not going to do that, reach out and we will change this podcast in order to be able to make sure that we get a 5-star review from you. It means the world to us if you do that. That's how we get paid. Just good karma.
All right.
But until then, I got nothing. So please give us a rating, and we will be back for episode number 125 next week. I can't believe it. 125. Man.
Getting old.
It is. We're almost as old as Canada. How's that? We'll see you next week. Asif, have a great week and good event on Tuesday, and we will talk next weekend.
All right.
See you later, everybody.